Good evening, crazy ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What the Fuck is Going On with me, Philosophy Girl. Today I'm going to be talking about fear. I think it's a very intrinsic part of human existence. I think it's something that everyone has to contend with regularly. And for me personally, contending with and dealing with and managing my own kind of fear and anxiety has been really, really helpful. So I thought if I would to start off, I want to kind of cover the things that I think are most crucial and I find the easiest to talk about because I'm the most kind of passionate about them. Yeah, so this isn't anybody else's. I mean, this is a kind of a combination of various different influences and small things that I've taken in across my own life, and kind of this is the conclusion that I've come to. This is my own personal philosophy that I have as far as fear goes. So yeah, it's not necessarily going to be focusing on any other philosophers that I would like to kind of make that something I do often in the future, is like focus on historical philosophy and stuff and analysing those. But today, yeah, it's just going to be my personal kind of opinions. Obviously, disclaimer, this is all subjective, this is all my thoughts and my feelings. I don't, think I'm right. Everything's, like I said, everything's subjective and relative and different from person to person. If you don't think this is kind of the way stuff works, then I respect that, and I'd like to hear what you think is the way it works. But yeah, so today I want to talk about what the point of fear is, okay? Because fear does have a purpose, okay? If you think about yourself as an animal or as an organism, as a functioning thing, you take away your personal whatever, you remove yourself from just walking around being you, and you think about the fact that you're actually just an animal at the whim of your own functioning brain, etc. And yeah, fear has a purpose. It is an incentive. It's a reward and punishment system. Thousands of years ago, fear was very, very crucial, and obviously it was needed because, it still is, but, imagine if you were born and you weren't afraid of anything. That's a bad thing. You need to know to look after yourself. You need to have self-preservation and humans are vulnerable to so many physical threats, and it's made total sense that for thousands of years to be particularly afraid of stuff has been intelligent as far as self-preservation goes, because if you just weren't scared of anything, you just walk off the edge of a cliff and die because fuck it, you need to. It's a good thing to have that sense of, oh no, but why would I do that? Like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. I want to live and I want to breathe and sing and dance. And, that comes, that's the other side of the coin of fear. And for a long time, this incentive to look after ourselves and not get eaten by lions and hide and shit, that was how we survived as a species and as creatures. And that's why it's such an intrinsic part of humans and our day-to-day emotions. And you think about it, all of the people that died presumably were, it's hard to say, but take away disease and all that stuff that's totally outside of people's individual control, it makes sense to suggest that most of the people who are the surviving descendants of all the people that were alive thousands of years ago, nowadays, like us, you'd assume our grandparents were like the angsty people because they didn't die. You assume that they were way more scared of shit, and that's why they had grandkids. And the people who did the lion taming and stuff, they died and didn't have kids, and that's why. I don't know. This is just. I'm not actually saying I genuinely believe this, but it's a offhand. That could be a thing. So who knows? Maybe we're just the descendants of all of the scaredy cats of the human race in some respect. Yeah, but it's got to a point where the new equivalent of like being scared you're going to be eaten alive or like die or something really drastic is, really menial things. Like for young people, because our society and our life is so progressed and civilized and successful, and there are so few genuine physical threats to us. We've had to kind of adapt. Your brain still has the function to serve of recognizing threats and fears and making you scared of those things in an attempt to progress and pursue things. But now, we're not scared of dying, we're scared of failing at our chosen career, and we're scared of not having nice shoes at school, and we're scared of being rejected, and loads of other things that affect us in a more conceptual and emotional way. They don't affect us in a physical way. It's a good thing that we've done that. I'm not saying I want people to be running around about to get eaten by lions. It's still, the reality is, young people, myself included, have a lot of stress and anxiety about things which we ourselves know are technically not that life-threatening, but it's our equivalent of that, because the likelihood that our life will actually be threatened is very slim. So your brain just moves the goalpost, and it's like, hey, we're not going to get killed. Now the new equivalent of absolute devastation is to be socially unpopular, and stuff like that. And I think it helps to recognize that, and recognize that your brain is trying to protect you from something gravely dangerous when small things happen to you. And I'm not saying they're small to make them invalid. It's very much an important part of life to be happy and have friends and feel included and feel successful and have all those, the first world problems, so to speak. That's still where, ideally we want the whole human race to be in a place where we have first world problems, don't we? Because we will have eliminated all of the serious problems and gotten better as a society on the whole. But yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make is that what you really need to do, if you can, is when you experience fear in your day-to-day life about things that aren't going to physically harm you, you need to separate yourself from that feeling of fear and recognize that it is your brain having a very extreme sense of what the worst case scenario is. Because the worst case scenario used to be that you die of a disease or get murdered or something, and it's drastic. People, for hundreds of years, people treated each other so terribly. We've only just recently got to a point in society where we're even mostly okay. And we forget that. We feel like it's so normal and intrinsic, and of course people are kind and nice and don't go around stabbing each other. But people still do, and people did, and life is a hard and crazy place. And people have a lot of struggles, and there's lots of violence and aggression and horrible stuff comes out of that struggling. But yeah, it's just to recognise that in the first place. I think that it's all a bit of an illusion. It's your brain misdirecting this self-preservation onto things that relatively aren't actually that big of a deal. Like, yes, it matters, okay? But like I said, because you aren't having actual life-threatening experiences, it doesn't matter. You still have a certain array of chemicals that your brain provides you with to incentivize you to do things. And those chemicals are going to be just as intense no matter what the stimuli is. That's just how your brain is controlled and exists. And it's a habit. You need to habitually and repetitively make yourself aware of this reality. And when you find yourself feeling panicky and really scared of social stuff and just conceptual stuff and life stuff, and what your parents think of you and what your friends think of you, and if you're going to do well in school and what job you're going to have and all this stuff, it's like, that stuff is important. But ultimately, as long as you've got arms and legs and some friends and or not even some friends, you could be sat on a hill with nothing, and ultimately, if you still have your health, that is what really matters. And I think we've kind of lost touch of that as a society because people are so successful and there's so little threat to your physical well-being that it's all kind of transferred onto lifestyle and stuff. Is it really helping to be so obsessed with succeeding in that respect? Like, it's good to be passionate it's good to see your own potential and to try hard and to put effort in and to try and achieve your dreams. But a lot of people are just going to grow up and work at Tesco's, and that doesn't make them any less valuable than a millionaire. That person still has kindness and intelligence and sees the beauty in the sunsets and has moments of joy, and that person ultimately is still incredibly lucky and living an amazing life by the standards of ancient history. And even people who live in fucking third world countries and shit, man, like, we are so privileged, and I don't think it's healthy to invalidate your own emotions in the day-to-day because you make that comparison. You say, oh, well, it could be worse, who am I to care? It's like, you're a person, you're valid, your feelings matter, but just don't terrify yourself for no reason. Just if something's stressing you out, just think, am I actually gonna die because of this? No. Amy thinks I did something and now she's upset with me and blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, it's just, it'll all sort itself out, okay? Just have faith in your own ability to deal with social problems and find your own way. And yeah, it's that irrational fear that stems from, but what if I die? And that is terrifying. But the reality is that if you try and be a DJ and you fail, you're not going to die. Yeah, it'll be embarrassing and maybe your friends will laugh, but at least you tried. And yeah, just there's too much fear, and people need to separate themselves from that fear and be rational and recognize what's happening. And doing that over and over again, every time you get really afraid, it does achieve something. And after a year or 2 years, or whatever, I used to be very scared, like often, used to get panic attacks and stuff, and now I am at a place where I get slightly worried about something and I can kind of realise what's happening and I can separate myself from that and not let it kind of overwhelm me. And I think that's a really powerful thing. Your emotions in your day-to-day life define the life that you lead and your reality. So if you can have more positive emotions on the daily and less negative ones, then that's what really matters. The outcome is what really matters. Like what I was saying last week with Richard Rorty, what are the practical repercussions of what you're doing, and if they're making you feel good, then that's what matters. The end goal is your emotions, how you feel. If you could be a billionaire and be miserable, and you can be a fucking goat farmer and be really happy, and ultimately the goat farmer guy's just definitely doing a way better job of living his life. So yeah, there we go. I think that's probably enough rambling for today. I hope everyone appreciated my fear-related talk. Yeah, and hopefully you can be a little bit less afraid, and just remember that it's all just, don't sweat the small stuff, baby. It's just your brain trying to look after you when really you don't need to be looked after, because you're good. And yeah, much love. Hasta luego, amigos, and I will see you next time.